Biggs. Biggs is on location today. We're in a totally different spot. I'm going to show you guys something totally different. I'm visiting with a dear friend of mine and his daughter. Him and his daughter called me up probably about 6-8 months ago, and they had this idea of getting a different type of pet. We're not talking a dog or a cat. They wanted something a little bit different, and they thought Biggs was the guy to talk to about this. So not only did they end up getting this awesome pet, which we'll introduce you to in a minute, they also wanted to set this thing up fully bioactive. You know, that's totally my game. So the Biggs set them up. They went to the store. They got everything. So let's take a peek at it. All right, guys, I told you Biggs is going to deliver. I'm here with my dear friend's daughter. This is Kyla Quinnell, and they wanted this idea of getting a different, more of an alternative pet. So what do you have in this lush jungle?
I have a crested gecko, or an eyelash gecko too, I guess.
Ooh, that sounds cool. So we have a crested gecko living in this, literally, you have a jungle in your bedroom. That's the thing that really makes, I think, crested geckos really exceptional pets. And I know that these are animals that I believe are CITES Appendix 1. So I don't think any crested geckos have been removed from the wild in many years. I think all of them are almost all captive bred, and they're actually relatively easy to captive breed, so they make exceptional pets. But what's the other factors that make it such an awesome animal?
Well, it's really cool to watch them because they have like semi-prehensile tails.
Okay.
So they're really fun to like handle.
They're kind of like a monkey.
Yeah, kind of. They're pretty active, and they're like not at all harmful. So really easy for anyone to handle. They won't bite you or anything. Okay. They're really easy to care for if you have a bioactive enclosure. Because there's minimal cleaning. And you just have to mist it like twice a day to keep up the humidity. And you really don't need any heating.
They don't need any heating at all. That's perfect. Yeah. So they basically not only is that animal, you know, easy to care for in that regard, then it's also extremely energy conscious, so it doesn't cost a lot to maintain it. And you said you don't have to really clean it, and that's because it's bioactive?
Yeah, so the isopods in here and the springtails, they eat all the leaf litter and all of her poop, like they eat everything, and all of her extra food too. So there's a lot less waste. And then that ends up just like fertilizing the plants, and it helps them grow too.
Apparently they're doing well.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good.
All right, let's take a closer look.
You can see the little cups there that are just empty, the little plastic containers. And those are her food containers that I just put on the ground after I've fed her. So that the isopods can clean it up, and then
so whatever she didn't use, the isopods will clean up.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's less waste. And then once they're clean, I take those out, and then I can reuse the cups.
So you make your own food for her then?
Yeah. Crested geckos eat just like a prepared diet. It's just a powder, and you mix in with some distilled water. You make a paste, and that's just what they eat.
So their natural diet in the wild, not besides the small amount of protein like insects and things that they, and you still feed them that as well, right?
Yeah, she doesn't like insects as much. She's not huge on insects, but there are insects in the prepared diets.
Oh, okay.
Like there's different proteins and stuff in there.
So it's a complete diet in this paste-like formula here that you have here on this kind of, this is her feeding shelf, I'm assuming I'm showing here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the wild they eat just like fruits and stuff that they find.
Like nectars and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it simulates.
You can see isopods just crawling around absolutely everywhere in here. Mm-hmm. She must eat some of the isopods, whether we know or not. You know, maybe she keeps the population a little bit in check. Because an isopod itself is just literally just almost a pure calcium source.
Yeah.
But there's calcium and everything that she would need. So basically everything that she needs is available in this food cup.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Much.
Is she active during the day as well?
No. During the day, she sleeps because they're nocturnal animals.
Okay.
And so at night, you hear just like thumping around.
Nice and restful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great to sleep in the same room as her. 'Cause keeps you up sometimes.
So when they approached the idea of wanting to a full bioactive, basically I just took a small little tub and I threw No, a handful of all different species of isopods that I had at home. And you can clearly see the survival of the fittest, which is the ones that have established themselves. So we've got a very well-diverse colony of dairy cows, and we have the orange form, but both of those are actually the same isopod. Those are both Porcilio laevis. Have any of the other species survived? You still have the zebras and a bunch of the others?
Yeah, I think there's still some zebras in here somewhere. They're obviously not as established, but...
Okay. Doesn't matter which species of isopod you get. Like, honestly, most people for bioactives would probably just use something like dwarf whites. And some people have claimed that certain species of isopods, like larger, I guess we'll call them fancy isopods, can often be a bit aggressive. But you've had no problem with any of them. You've never noticed anything with her, and she's obviously thriving.
Yeah, no, she's doing good, and they're not showing any aggression at all towards her.
All right, what's this giant monitor thing on the side here?
That just kind of helps me know what the temperature and the humidity is in there. So I can really just make sure that everything is running properly and that I'm not freezing her or...
So it runs off that little white thing in there. That's a probe then, eh?
Yeah, that's a probe. And it just measures the humidity and the temperature in there.
Very cool. What kind of light you using on the top?
I'm using a UVB bulb, but... you don't actually have to use them for crested geckos, which is another cool thing about them.
Because they're nocturnal, really. They would never see sunlight, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Let's take a peek inside.
All right.
All right, so Kyla's taken the lid off. Basically, it's a large metal mesh screen lid. And then she just used a product called chloroplast, which is a plastic product. And that she cut a small section out mainly for the light and a little bit for ventilation. But by putting that hard plastic, one being it white, it's going to reflect the light back into the environment for all the plants and stuff. As you can see, the plants are absolutely thriving. But the two, it also, the plastic controls and maintains a much higher level of humidity, which would be more akin to the native environment where this animal would come from. And you can see with this type of environment, with all the different type of cork bark backgrounds, these cork barks are just adhered here, different type of slabs and branches and stuff like that. This is absolutely the perfect environment for her. She can literally just vanish into it. And it took us several minutes to even find her, and she hasn't moved. She's sitting right there. There you can see those pods that Kyla was talking about. So the cleanup crew can go and clean them up. That's a water dish, I guess. But I guess she would also probably get water every day. You mentioned you miss this twice a day.
Yeah, she mostly just drinks water from the leaves, like the water droplets, or she just like licks it off herself when I missed.
The isopods are trying to make a break for it. This is a species of reptile that, as Kyla mentioned, comes from New Caledonia. Originally it was thought that it was completely extinct, and it's only been actually rediscovered. I think it was back in 1994 that the animal was rediscovered and was entered the pet trade at that time. And it's really exploded. Within reptile pets, it would probably be in the top 5 of starter reptiles. Now, she did mention that they do have a semi-prehensile tail. But like all reptiles, you got to be very, very cautious with their tail, that you don't want to disturb the animal too much. You got to be careful in how you handle them. She mentioned that crested geckos are a very, very easy to handle animal, and they truly are. And Kyla handles her all the time. But they always run that risk of them dropping their tail if they should feel threatened. So you see how Kyla's going very, very calmly, very quietly with her animal.
I don't know if you saw, but she kind of shook her tail a little bit too, and that's a form of distress.
Okay.
So I'm just going to be really careful.
Yep.
Just so that I don't stress her out too much.
And there you have her. That is a beautiful, and you can really, really see why they get the moniker of eyelash gecko when you see them up close. They are fascinating animals. Now, Kyla, why did you want to have a crested gecko? How did this come about?
Well, I've always wanted a different kind of pet. I've always wanted a gecko, and I always just knew, I used to only know about leopard geckos, and then I did some more research, and I found out about crested geckos.
So you're saying that you thought about a leopard gecko, and then you really, really like this kind of a gecko, not only because of their ease of care, but what was the other reason?
They're arboreal or semi-arboreal. So, they're kind of more fun to handle, and you can have a lot more fun with their enclosures.
Yeah. I agree. I've seen leopard enclosures, and it's usually just sand, and people put a hide, and then they give it a water dish, and that's about as exciting as they get. So having this beautiful, lush jungle type habitat is really, really cool. I think that's a fascinating animal, and I agree. I think it's a great pet. But I'm more excited by the fact that you had created this incredible environment for it. This beautiful, fully bioactive environment with isopods. Everybody loves isopods. Lush plant growth, good lighting, and the gecko on the side is just the absolute benefit. So thank you very much, Kyla, for sharing her with us today. Just not just her, but your full in setup. I think it's really, really cool. So thanks again.
Thank you for having me.